Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Yogo, or You Only Go Once podcast. I'm here with the brilliant Eileen Grimes, and today we have a great guest. Eileen, kick us off.
Thanks, Cheryl. It's wonderful to be back with you for a little bit. We haven't seen each other, quote unquote, for a while. So I am very excited to welcome our guest today for multiple reasons. One, because of the amazing work that she's doing. Two, because of some really cool things that are happening in business right now for her. And also, she is my publisher and just the most amazing human. So I want to welcome Angela Engel. Angela launched the Collective Book Studio. She wanted to build a different kind of publishing business, one that adhered to the author's vision every step of the way. Her experience in traditional publishing allows her to introduce beautiful books into the world, and she brings her passion for reading and sharing new ideas into every new project she undertakes. I'd also like to say, outside of sort of your formal introduction, that there's a lot of the values that you hold as a human that get to live out loud in the work that you do. And I see that, I know that from working with you, but also seeing the other books and things that you're bringing into this world. And I just admire that, because taking a stance sometimes can be really difficult. And putting yourself out there in terms of a business to do that kind of work can be scary. It's just so inspiring to see everything that the Collective Book Studio is doing, and obviously you leading it by at the helm. So I just want to thank you and welcome you to You Only Go Once.
I love that. And Eileen, thank you for that. I'm going to try not to be teary-eyed at the very beginning of a podcast, but it is extremely difficult to be a business owner and a leader, both from an ethical point of view, what I publish, as well as actually practice it, put it into practice.
Yep. And so today, for those who've listened to You Only Go Once, we really are just talking about the idea that we live this one life, one time, right? And how do we do that on purpose, in purpose? And obviously the work that you do in your day job is a huge piece of that. There's also the non-day job of what goes on at home. So I know I've just seen you, and one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on was because of all of that, because you're living that in both sides and all sides of your life and everything that you sort of take over and want to do. And I just want to share, I want you to share how you're doing that. What does that look like? How can we be better at doing what we're doing? And that's the conversation for tonight. So it's really just learning more about you and how you're living on purpose, and how you take some time for yourself to continue living on that purpose.
Oh, I love that. I think if people have read anything that I've written, I sort of have this mantra, and it says, change starts with you. And I'm going to start the evening with that, because if you think about living your purpose, it feels like sometimes overwhelming of all the things. And honestly, being an activist and, running a nonprofit or all those other things in life, like for some, that is not their path. So I often say, if you just hold on to the idea that change starts with you, that could be as small as, looking at the books that are on your bookshelf, and how are you reading different stories of people of color? How are you exposing your children and your own family to LGBTQ plus issues? And so those are little tiny things that you can do that actually change the world.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, so Cheryl is amazing and wonderful too. She has one of the little free libraries. So I know that that's one of the things that she brings to the community as well. So Cheryl, I don't know if you want to share about that.
First of all, I love what you do. So thank you so much. And I love, there is just something magical about children's books to begin with. And then just thinking about it. So a couple things happened over the past few years. My mom passed away in April of 2022. She was a voracious reader. And I thought, what is a good way to honor her? And then I read up on little free libraries. So I have one sitting in front of my house, and it gives me great joy to see people stop by, grab books. And I think one of the things that I love the most is getting children's books, but from different perspectives. So we just interviewed somebody by the name of Jacqueline Cran, and she has a wonderful book out, and I wish I could remember the name. It is Sharing is
the New Cool.
Cool. That's what it is. Sharing is the New Cool. And it's reflective of her life. So it's got her sons, and she's Black, and her, all the ways that the different kids are represented are awesome. And I love seeing little kids go up to the library and grab something and go, oh, this looks neat, and then off they go. So I love that you're in this. How did you get started in children's publishing?
Yeah, well, I actually do children's publishing as well as I have an entire adult line, nonfiction, lifestyle, and gift.
Okay.
So I got started in publishing over 23 years ago. I got my first job out of college. I'm a comparative lit and creative writer. And I didn't know what was I going to do. And I applied for this job in marketing, right? And you're just like trying to make marketing copy. And at that time on the Xerox machine. And so, and I just got really lucky. I got a really entry-level job in publishing, and I worked my way up pretty quickly in the San Francisco Bay Area. I had a job at 10 Speed Press, which was very well known for What Color Is Your Parachute?
Okay.
And I think I've always followed that concept, that idea of like that we each have a different need in our career and our life based on sort of this color. And I had always this entrepreneurial sort of part of me. I actually wrote to 10 Speed Press after reading that book and saying, I think you need to hire me, because the part of the book, there was a chapter, if the job is not written for you, but the company is the one you really want to work for, write them a letter. That was his advice. So I thought, okay, I'm in this color match of the parachute. That's what I'm supposed to do. And guess what? I got a phone call from the owner, and he had me come in, and he was like, whoa, I really like this kid, probably because I was in my 20s.
I love it.
And here we go. And then I went to Chronicle Books, and I did a bunch of other stuff, and now I have my own company. But I really went for that kind of idea that, like, if the job is not for you, you should figure out how to create it for yourself.
That's great.
I mean, I love that too, because when you talked about purpose before, right? There's that concept of purpose being so big and almost unattainable at points. Like I remember feeling that very heavily, because I was not one in my 20s to be like, I want to be a doctor or a whatever. And I definitely know this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my one life. And I felt like I was a failure because of it. And I think sometimes it's really just finding the opportunities that speak to us. They don't have to be big, but they just have to be something where you feel like you might be able to make a difference and somewhere that matters to you. And it sounds like that is sort of that parachute color there is what really spoke to you to be able to go into it, and I think it changes over time, right? You don't have to have a singular purpose. There is opportunity at different parts of your life to really see things in a different way and to know that you can contribute based on just life and what you've experienced, and that can change over time. It's been at least helpful for me to kind of take that into consideration.
Yeah, I really do resonate with that. And one of my things is I was a comparative lit major. Mm-hmm. And so my favorite books that I've ever read is, Gabriel Marquez, like he wrote 100 Years of Solitude. And that sort of concept of this magical realism, this idea that life is real but unreal, and how we weave our stories in. But if you just have that concept of believing, magic is around you, right? So I had this concept from an early age that, like, books can kind of change your whole perspective, right? So I think there's a part of me that's a true optimist based on the novels that I've read, right? Based on sort of that unbelievable, that magical realism that exists in, I think of Toni Morrison's work. It's in there as well. And Isabel Allende, it's in there. And those kinds of novels that we've read that make some of the unbelievable believable, we actually can see if we act those in our own lives, we all kind of have a glimpse of, wow, I didn't know that could actually happen. And it really happened to us, right? And I think that is sort of when we open our hearts and our minds up to that, the world is possible. I'm going to go back to the very beginning of this pandemic. I live in Oakland, California, and that we all know that's where the Princess Cruise landed. And I think, we all didn't know where we would be now, but what I did know is that there was this heart in Oakland of people who wanted to help. And I raised a GoFundMe of $35,000, and we had 10,000 face shields, and we were delivering, to the Highland Hospital right here down the street. So what I'm saying is common people, they want to help and they want to change. It's just sometimes it just takes us to figure out the platform that some people feel most comfortable using.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a question for you. I do genuinely think everyone wants to help. I don't know that everyone knows how to lead in those circumstances. Have you always, obviously you're an entrepreneur, you put this GoFundMe together. I've worked with you. Like, I know how you operate. Has that just sort of always been who you are, that it's like, I'm going to take a step. I'm not sure what it is or how to do it, but this is going to happen. And we just kind of keep moving forward from here.
Yes, I have. I think if I better show this podcast to like my elementary and high school friends, because they could probably tell you stories, but
I bet
it's sort of like get to know Angela. Yes. Like, in the 80s when the, AIDS quilt was floating around, I like organized everyone to go visit it in Minneapolis. I was out there, always like, hey, anything is possible. We're not raising enough canned food. Why we could raise tens of thousands more if we partnered with a grocery store to, put a letter on bags and just hand out the grocery bag to people, because this is, when I'm a kid, I'm 12 or 13. So, but what's really important that I want people to know is that those are part of me, but I don't need to be in the nonprofit space to do good, right? I think that is sometimes where people are stuck. They're like, I've noticed, like, oh, but I have this day job, or I have that. If everyone ran something really, really good, we would have all the other elements of life that we need done in our lives, right? Like we need nurses and doctors and dentists and people and teachers and other things in our lives. So what I would say there is that activism can be really small as picking up a book, as small as building a library, a lending library, a free library. That is activism to me. That for sure. That act is what changes the world.
Yeah, and it can be in the places. So Cheryl and I, obviously I don't work there anymore, but Cheryl and I were working in insurance services, right? But even within that, we co-founded a women in IT community to encourage and develop women leaders within the organization. So not necessarily the place you would think to practice activism, but it absolutely is something that happened from the work that we did. So, it's finding the gifts and knowing the gifts that you have and where those strengths can be. But maybe it's being a mentor. Like, it doesn't have to be creating an organization, right? But it can be something that you were really good at that you can share with someone else or with something else to make the world just a little bit better.
I love that so I love our women in IT group. I know Eileen loves our women in IT group. And, I'm proud of the work we've done, but I'm also super proud of the women that have stepped forward and said, hey, we'd like to do something too. And we see them lead and we see them come up with innovative ideas. And it's just, it's awesome to see that spark. Have you seen that spark in others in your in Collective Studio? Like how do you ignite that spark in others?
I think it's the things we select to publish. So, for example, I have a book coming out in June called Radical Business, and it's a nonfiction book by David Gaines, and he's writing about social entrepreneurship. And although my children's line is booming, and we can go off on that part of my business I love. I do a lot of social emotional learning there. But when I think about also what can kind of help the group, help us as leader, help me as a leader in a publishing house is why do I publish? What do I publish? And bringing people like David Gaines into our list, his book is like from a social entrepreneurial, everyone can be one, right? A coffee roaster, someone who owns or buys a coffee shop. That simple can be a social entrepreneur, and so I like that. I'm publishing to that. I also am publishing a book called Positive Caregiving, which is literally about caring for people who are aging. And so I think that when we acquire things, whether they're mindfulness books, whether they're children's books, the editors that I cultivate, the writers and the thinkers that I cultivate, we're already doing that work. And then it's about how do we continue that work outside of the book, right? And I think that that's what's so special about publishing nonfiction. I think of you, Eileen, you published this book, this beautiful book on a parenting journal and this love and connection. And the nice thing about a nonfiction story and an author behind a nonfiction, there's a lot of purpose there, because I always say to people, the difference between a great nonfiction book, and outside of like a memoir or a fiction, right, a novel, a nonfiction, the idea is you turn it on to the reader. You are helping them solve a problem, right?
Right.
So the fact that all my authors, they're doing that in their life because I publish nonfiction. They're helping people solve a problem.
Yep.
And I
definitely
get to birth all those into the world. It's like the best job, right? Ever.
Yeah. Well, and that's what, so you have a very specific value set that you run as the Collective Book Studio, and you're intentional about that within the submissions, right? Within that submission process. It's like, these are the things that we're going to publish. These are the things that we know we can get behind from the start. And when they come out into this world, it's because we now have our heart as part of these, as well as that author.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least that's what I've seen.
Yeah. No, I have a new book going to come out August 2024. Let me just talk way past, publishing.
Right.
Yeah. And it's called Mindful with Me. And today I get to be on a creative meeting and I'm reading some of the breath work. And I'm like, oh, these are 3 easy steps. Like, I'm also learning all the time of how I can be mindful for myself. And I think you're right. I'm living often new ways that I can also be better. I have a book on my list by Alicia McKenzie, and am I allowed to swear on this pod?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
It's called Balance is Bullshit. And she talks about time blocking, in this book. And I gained over 30 pounds in COVID. I'd be honest. I was drinking like a fish. I really was. And I had never drank spiked sodas. This is a very candid conversation.
I've never tried those. Yeah. So anyway, I don't need to. I don't think I have to start.
You don't want to. I started ordering a case of them, Kirkland brand. And it was just not a great habit, we'll just say. And so then I started reading Alicia's book, and I was like, okay, I'm just not going to focus then on that I have to work out 3 hours a day or something to lose this weight. And I'm just going to focus on time blocking walking. And I lost the 30 pounds in 8 months. by
Yeah.
really just focusing on walking and time blocking and movements 20 minutes at a time. And I learned those skill sets based on the work that I publish. It's really special.
Isn't that amazing? So there's the idea of, right, we are what we consume, and it's not just food. It's the things that the people that are around us, the thoughts that we have in our heads. You're working in this every day, right? If you're surrounded by things that are, whatever that's different, that could be a whole different mentality that you have in your own life. But the fact that you're getting to read stuff like this and hear these things and consume that then becomes who you are, and that's amazing. That's amazing.
I think I've talked a lot about this. I just wrote a whole piece on this. I have this new children's book called No One Owns the Colors.
Yeah, but good. Get it.
It's so good. It just came out. So good. But I remember having a conversation. My youngest is 7 years old. I think she was not quite 5 when I acquired this book, right? And she was talking at the dinner table what color cups her dad was able to have, and what color cups her sisters could have. And my oldest, who maybe is was at 8th grade now, she's 9th grade. Okay. She got really upset. She got really upset at the dinner table. She was just like, why is my sister saying who's owning what color cup and gender? Like, is my oldest, I will just write about this, is queer identifying. And so I said, okay, I have a manuscript and some color sketches. Let's bring this to the table. And one of the ideas is that no one owns the colors because nature doesn't own the colors. And so when I read this to my 5-year-old, she was like, oh, and it just clicked that like no one can own pink. Like squirrels don't own pink, right? And so that's what it says in the book. And like, it was that moment where she sort of was able to understand where her oldest sister, and sometimes we have to get that like, talking about some of these hard issues, a 4 or 5-year-old doesn't mean they're not trying to say a boy can only wear blue. They're being conditioned that way. Yeah. And so it takes books and other concepts to sort of help our kids understand other ways and other, as simple as, hey, listen, the sky is blue, so who owns the sky?
Yep.
No, nature doesn't own it, you see. And so I think that was a really important book for us to put on the list.
We need to get that for the Little Free Library, Cheryl.
I was going to say, I need to get that. That's for sure. Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, there's so many great books that collect, obviously biased, but there's so many wonderful books. Rachel Teichman's books also, with the B is for Bagel, and just like learning about all of those things. Like it's amazing to see what is coming out of there. My children, or my daughter specifically, loves Gratitude the Great, just to be clear. And we read it all the time. So, but just hearing about other people's traditions and the way other people do things, like, I think it's just so wonderful and important. And that's what the world of books opens to us, right? Is these other worlds and the other ways people interact with the world. And how can I learn from that? How, if I'm in a situation where, there's bullying or whatever it is, maybe I can learn from this and act in a way that aligns with who I am. So that's, for me, books have always been so important. Even while majoring in math, I still, books to me were such a huge part of who I was growing up. I was also a voracious reader, and like, my mom would bring me into bookstore, library, whatever. I would always come out with multiple books and just crush through all of them. So, seeing you in this space and doing the work that you do is so important for, my kids, your kids, right? All the new generation, but also for us as adults, right? Like, we don't, especially in the time of COVID, where like we can't leave. How do we experience other people? And I think books are such a great way to be able to do that.
Yes, so, absolutely. I have a question for you guys.
Oh boy.
I was asked this,
Okay.
since we're on the topic of books. I was just asked this last week or past week if I thought, that books would eventually go away. And I'd love, before I told you what I think, I would love to know what you guys think. Like, will ebook or electronic, like, do you think that's the way, or do you really think this concept of these printed books is with us for much longer?
Cheryl, I'll let you answer first. I'm curious as what you think.
Yeah, I don't know. If I shift one way, you can kind of see this is one of several book areas in my house. All I can say is I hope it doesn't go away. I know that there's a balance between, being responsible and not killing so many trees and not publishing books that way, but there's also work to be done in recycled paper and things like that. There's also something about having that book and just disappearing into the book and having it be tangible. There's like the smell of books. There's just, there's something just like, I think, to own a book, and I've seen a lot of this. So there's somebody recently that came out with a kid's version of her book, and she sent out like gift boxes to all these littles, and you could see this kid open up the box, and she's like, I get to keep this book. This book is my book. And there's something so heartwarming about that when and especially if you find yourself in the book. Ebooks I also like because I'm running out of space. So there's also that piece of it too, but there is just something so magical about a printed book, whether it's hard copy or paperback, that I think has longevity still.
I think for adult readers, it could go 50-50. I do not believe that children's books will ever go away. There is something to be said about the physical nature of touching a book and learning through the actual physical act of having this tangible thing to flip through and look at and play with. I mean, that's why so many, even toddler books, if we look at them, they're tactile, right? You have whether there's fur on that you're touching, or different patterns or shapes, or all of that stuff. It's really meant to be something to interact with, and you just will never get that same type of interaction. Also from just learning more about the research on screen time and things like that and how it affects the developing brain. We don't have readers. I don't have readers at our house. So there's that. And actually was specifically why I didn't want my book to have some kind of virtual or app copy, because there was something special about being in the physical presence of each other with something in our hands together. And for me, I don't ever see that. I see there is something additional that happens in the magic of having that book in front of you, that I don't think can ever be replicated with any kind of device. So that's
there. You just found my purpose. You just, I love it. And I want to give Cheryl, I want everyone to have a rest. I was just at a conference in February, and I was serving on this panel with printers, paper manufacturers. I was the publisher representative. And it was so hard for a lot of us publishers to actually get paper, because we are actually a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of the paper market. So if anyone ever thinks that buying a book, no, I mean, we use all recyclable papers. Probably publishing people are the most, all my inks are soy-based inks. I'm using FSC papers. There's a lot of companies I can name that are, B Corp companies. So a book is least, if you think about a paper is toilet paper, is paper towels, cardboard. The amount, stop buying so much on a very large corporation and get those cardboard boxes, guys. That's that is much more than buying a printed book that you can actually probably, if I look at my bookshelf right now, I still
Mhm.
have books that I read in college.
Yeah.
So
I have
that
one that I
paper
have
has
from elementary school. It's
really
like barely holding on, but I got it.
exactly. So I think, in that sense, we're doing pretty good in the industry in terms of leaders of if we're going to use paper,
Mhm.
how we're going to use it and how we're going to treasure it.
That's awesome
But
to hear. And thank you for sharing that. That's great.
yeah, I should get those statistics and have them somewhere, but they were really interesting and I felt very validated because it's, on that level and probably part of my purpose. I mean, I always say, I think you guys asked the Collective Book Studio, like what do other people think? And my team, hence the name, the Collective Book Studio, I really want them to feel very invested. So when it was really important for my manufacturing and designer side to think about a sustainability element of all of our titles, to move to soy-based inks, to really use FSC and wood-free papers. Often actually doesn't matter if wood-free versus, I'm not an expert on matte and lamb, but whatever they are doing, I was 100% in support of our Sustainability Act. And because, it is really key for all of us to kind of take a look at all the little tiny ways, right? Like I think we talked about this, that, change starts with you in the very beginning. So if I have somebody who's like, this is the change that I need to see for me to feel joy when I design a Collective Book Studio book, that's what I want to be as a leader.
Definitely. So what are your thoughts? What's the future of books? Are we leaving them behind?
I sure hope not.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I said that. I said, I think that we are a people that have treasured this. We painted on caves, right? Like, and then scrolls and stones, and there's something so tangible. I believe it's an art form, and I think we still go to museums and we value things that are an art form. And I think books are one of those art forms. And I just don't think, as much as technology moves us in a forward direction, as we talk about AI, people ask me about all this other stuff in writing. I do think there's something very unique about a way that gets into and dives into the perspective in the printed format. That's like an art form, especially in children's and art books and lifestyle books when you have that element.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, hold on. You keep talking. I'm going to find, so I have, hold on. Okay. Keep talking.
Okay. Where is she going, Cheryl? This is hilarious.
I don't know. I think she's going to go get her book. I think that's what she's getting. There she is. Where the red fur grows.
Real old. I mean, like there is some stuff missing. There is no spine. But
that's a beloved book.
It is. It absolutely is. And there is something like, and again, maybe this is just the person in me that probably shouldn't keep all the things. And I don't. I'm actually not too bad. But there's emotion. Like I remember when I read this book, I remember the feeling of when, spoiler alert, the dogs died, and just how deep that touched me. That exists when I hold this. And I don't know. I can't imagine that going away and getting to flip through it and show the kids. And I'll read that to them at some point. Like that is not going to go away for me until someone else throws it away, but I won't.
Well, already also the listeners have to realize she didn't go very far. Where the red ferns grow, it's like it was like right behind. Okay, I'm going to show you all. I'm just going to reach over my desk. Look what sits on my desk. This tattered covered book, which is
that's awesome.
Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison, and it's all tattered. And I read it in my freshman year in college when I was 18, 19 years old. And it changed my life, the Song of Solomon. So I remember the classroom, right? and like the things that you remember, or the coffee shop you were reading in,
Mhm.
that is, I think that tangibility, you can't get that in the same way, you know. So that's what's so beautiful. And I love when the pages discolor. Oh my God.
Mhm. Mhm.
Totally. Oh my
So
gosh, that's
yeah,
funny. Neither of us had to go very far at all. I knew it was
No.
right down there. I just had to get it.
no. You guys, this is such a, that's what I love about purpose, right? We're talking about
Mhm.
purpose.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, for me, what my biggest thing is, like, when you can tap into love, that's when you really
Mm,
can find purpose.
Yeah.
absolutely. And I mean, I found that in a few different things. Now, one, just being able to publish my book was completely out of and with love, and finding you, knowing that that's what the collective studio was all about, right? I could feel that from our first conversation together. Um, and then doing this podcast with Cheryl, like, this has all been about love and connection and bringing people together. And I just don't think there's anything better personally, but you know, to each their own. Also, I want to say, Angela, did you know Cheryl has also written a book that was recently published,
No, tell us about it.
So
which you're not going to have to reach far either.
no, because there's like copies everywhere. So this is my poetry book. It is My Say with the Sisters, which is I reimagined grief and gratitude as sisters. So I wrote this kind of to help me process my own feelings about my mom's death, and I thought it would also help other people. So and when you go into the house of the sisters, you can go to different rooms and you find different poems. So self-published, learned a lot. Learned a lot with self-publishing. But it has been a labor of love. And I think you both hit the nail on the head, is that if you don't do something that isn't a labor of love, what are you even doing? So
Yeah, and you know, grief is really, like, important to discuss, right? Like,
mhm,
Cheryl, to go
mhm.
in that space. I actually am publishing a pub date is tomorrow, called
Cool.
Morning Leaves, a pub date,
Mm,
a book on poems of on grief and love, and paired with art and her nature walks after losing her sister from
mm.
Mhm.
sleep apnea.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
I
Wow.
know. And so the book is absolutely gorgeous, and I'm so excited for Lang. And you know, that's the beauty about nonfiction. We were able to take this series and then we weaved in essays and to make it nonfiction. But when she came and
Mhm.
approached us with this collection, I really was like, I want to do a book on grief. Like I said, aging, social responsibility. I have a book,
Yeah.
as we all know, Dear White Women, on my list of anti-racist
Hmm.
book by two BIPOC women. They're Japanese and white.
Mm.
These are issues that I continually think
Hmm.
nonfiction books don't get old, right?
Yeah.
We just have
Mhm.
to continually talk about this. So grief is one of those that's really key that we have to, like, move through.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. It was so great too. I mean, not great. That's not the right word. But I remember one of our first conversations, Angela, around the book, and it was like, I can't remember exactly what you asked me, but it was basically like, what do you actually want to do with this book? Because, right, you can write a book. Lots of people can write a book, but to share it with the world in a published format and be a published author is a whole different ballgame. And that was something that I was sharing with Cheryl. It was just like, it's totally worth it if that's the direction you want to go. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of love. It's a lot to really, put your hat into the ring with it. And I think I was encouraging enough. Obviously it's here and all of that good stuff. But yeah, it is not for the faint of heart, for sure, to go from writing something to actually bringing it alive and out into the world.
For sure. I know, Eileen, when you were writing your book, it was exciting. it was exciting from this side. I'm pretty sure it was terrifying from your side because you're like, I want to do this. I got to do this. And we were like, go, this is awesome. We're going to have an author in our circle. This is great. And, until I was on this side of the author,
Yeah.
I had no idea. Like my little brain was going, what have I done? Oh my God. What have I done? What have I done? I probably shouldn't do this. There was like a month where I stopped everything. Where I was like, I don't think this is going to happen. I had paid the illustrator. I had paid the editors. And I was like, maybe we'll just stop. No, it'll be fine. Look how far I got. And people were like, are you kidding me? You better go. So it's made its way into the world and I'm exhausted, but, how do you, so Angela, for you, I don't know if you deal with imposter syndrome on a regular basis among your writers, or if they're like uber confident and they're like, I have a book and it's going to rock and here we go. For those like me who have imposter syndrome and ran scared rabbits throughout the whole process, how do you keep them motivated? How do you keep them energized?
Yeah, wow, that's crazy question. I think the thing is, which Eileen just said, being an author is a lot of work. It's a lot. Writing a book is a lot of work, but then also the reality of putting yourself out there, because time and time again, the difference between a book and lots of other things, readers want to get to know you, right? They really, we can make a very beautiful book, but if you go hide under a rock or a hill or wherever you decide to go, like there's nothing we can do, right? Because in the end, they really want to connect with your story. And so I think for me, it's really, and I have a team behind me of people that, my authors can reach out to, ask questions, how should we get our Goodreads pages up, our Amazon pages up? How should we build our websites? Authors all have to have their own website. A publisher will never pay for that. You have to build your own platform, whether you're self-published, traditionally published, hybrid published, partnership published, if you crowdfund, if you kickstart, you need to build a platform. That is my biggest thing. And I think learning from that platform is maybe make an area for you to, get feedback. Listen, I hate going on Instagram and TikTok. I've never even been on and all that stuff. But today I popped on my Instagram stories and did a little thing because the fact of the matter is that's where people are.
Yeah.
And even if 4 people listen to you, I guess.
True. Yeah.
You have to kind of do it and you have to look at it as practice. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh shoot, don't look at I sometimes like, oh what? I spent an hour and I got 5 people to listen to me. But look at that as like practice, right?
Yeah.
Practice for what there is to come.
It's important. I mean, it just is. And I think for me, at least, the more you keep telling yourself, if you have your why, like, why is it that it's so important for you to get this out to the world? What is it? Is it a message? Is it what is it that you're trying to share? And if you get really, really good at that, that helps you to get over some of that imposter side of things. Because it's not then about you. It's about the why piece of it.
Right.
It's
right.
If for me, like, that's what I needed. And it was like, I know that I'm in this because I know this journal is going to help people. I know that there is going to be more connection for anyone that's able to use this. And knowing that helped me get over myself a little bit, right? It isn't about me. It's about them. It's about people that are going to get this. And for, this is why I kept telling you that I'm like, I know that people that will read your book are going to connect in a way that they might not have been able to express what they had been going through with their loss. And having you be able to put that into words is such a gift for other people. And, having a why, I think, is really incredibly important.
Absolutely. And, I think that influence is different than being we can all be influencers and have influence, and not to get wrapped up on the following, and rather just think about what is your goal, purpose, and influence here. And I just met today with an amazing woman who has a huge, 300,000+ subscribers on our YouTube channel. And she came and had iced tea with me on my back porch. And she chose a couple of our children's books that she's going to do. She's an actor and a YouTube, and no money exchange, right? She really wants to get our message out. And I was so grateful, because the fact of the matter is the big corporate publishing houses, they can pay whatever it is to get their books up and front. And she was explaining to me why she sort of shifted. She started her reading with like A Very Hungry Caterpillar and Brown Bear, and like everything very, very popular. And she's shifted now to all independent publishing houses, very good ones, and what the gratefulness and what that means to the content and what that means to her viewerships, right? Yeah. So she might be getting ad money and other things. Great, because I don't have to pay her, but she should get that ad money. Everyone has to make a living. But she's doing true content, and content that is meaningful, and able to really kind of step back of like what it is, and enduring what it is to get her purpose out. And what is it? Do you get the quick thing from a corporate company, or do you get to really dive in and get to know owners and artists? And she's interviewing, the different illustrators and the writers of these books and how grateful they are. Yeah. And my thing when I talked to her was like, wow, I just have this new book. I'm going to swear again, okay?
Go for it.
I have this new book on our list called Houseplants and Their Fucked Up Thoughts. P.S. They hate you.
Oh, God, I need that.
I was going to say, you just hit her vibe. You just hit Eileen's vibe.
I'll send you It's so good. I'll find it and send you a copy. I promise.
Love it.
Okay, write me a Goodreads review. Anyway.
Absolutely.
So I have this book, and we were mailing it out, and this one very big plant influencer, millions of followers, said, oh, here's my rates. You don't even want to know. It was just for the stories alone. I was like, over 1,000 plus. I was like, for 24 hours, like, who can afford this? No women-owned business can afford that. Meaning, I'm asking all of us, entrepreneurs, people with women-owned businesses, people with BIPOC products, don't get fooled in that, because that is noise. And instead, buy the brands, buy the creators, buy the things that are, really moving us forward. Is also like diversifying money across, as we know, and not always buying from a large brand.
Yeah, exactly. Well, with that being said, would love to have many of the authors also on the podcast. So just think about that.
Yes,
we're doing
sure they
things.
would love that. Okay, we'll come up with a list. I mean, you should definitely talk to David Gaines of Radical Business, the social. He's
for
phenomenal.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, so I just to like brag a little bit here. We've got listenerships in we're at 10 different countries now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool, right? We've got different places all over the world. So yeah, would love to bring some different people with different perspectives and all of that stuff. So very much open to that piece of it. Because I know podcasts, all those kind of things are options for people to get their names out and what they're doing and share some of that and just the good stuff that's happening, because that's what we talk about. So yeah. So, gosh, I can't believe it's already been basically an hour.
Oh my heavens, it is. Yeah,
I know. So we usually end with kind of this final question on this podcast. Started with the saying called "This is happening." I say that a lot with Cheryl. Like, we'll talk about ideas, and when there's just one that's like, I don't know why, but this has got to become real. This has got to be something that happens and we do and create. So like this podcast, once we brought it up and talked about it, I was like, this is happening and we're here. So, what for you in the next year or two or 6 months or whatever that looks like, what's sort of happening for you in your movement forward, either personally or with the Collective Book Studio? I know there's something big that recently happened. So
yes,
free to share.
Well, everybody who's listening, it is huge. Yes, we will have the Collective Book Studio. We will be distributed and sold by Simon & Schuster, one of the big 5 houses. They did not buy me. Everyone's asking that question. No, that's still women-owned. some days I wish there was a bag of investor money all over me, but no, but it is unbelievable. That's happening July 1st of 2023. So in like a month and a half, my warehouse and transition will be complete. And what does that mean if you're not in the world of books? I'm going to tell you this. Distribution, getting into the world of readers is very, very difficult. I can see Cheryl as a self-published author, she knows her platform is a large monolith, but it's an online platform. And guess what? There are readers not online. There are readers in libraries. There are readers in schools. There are readers who go into Barnes and Noble or the Strand or Powell's bookstore. There are so many readers in anthropology, right? They carry books outside of the book trade. So what I'm so excited about for Simon and Schuster is that they have that distribution network and that expertise that I think can grow my business probably more than I realize. So when you say, where am I, the Collective Book Studio going to be in 6 months, a year, I'm going to just manifest this.
Yeah, do it.
You have to be a $3 million company to be one of the fastest growing companies in Publishers Weekly, which is the large trade magazine. Some people call it the New York Times of the publishing world. I don't know why they've compared it that way. But what I would say is that is a goal I have, that I quickly want to become one of the fastest growing publishing companies, independent publishing companies here in the United States, and that's my goal. And I think it's doable with the Simon and Schuster team.
Fantastic. That's exciting. Congratulations.
It's so huge.
It
just was hard and labor of love. My authors needed it. I think too, it wasn't just for me, Eileen, it was for you. It was for my authors. My authors really, Eileen ran a Kickstarter. They really give a lot to be able to publish and trust in me. And I needed that distribution network. My whole goal is to think about acquiring differently, owning IP, letting my authors think like entrepreneurs and not acquire it for lifetime or everything. For example, this YouTuber told me that she got slapped by Macmillan, Harper, all these big publishing houses. She's not allowed to read on YouTube or has all these conditions for 1 year on the books. And even when you're published with a big house, you don't have that say. Where like a large publishing house like myself, if Eileen came up to me and was like, I'm so excited, this amazing YouTuber is going to read, I'd be like, go for it. So it's a very, very different relationship I believe I'm building. And so then to have my house be distributed is just really exciting for so many levels. For also people like who are YouTubers and things, they'll know that when they read or look at our books, they're going to be able to be carried everywhere. So it's really exciting for my authors.
Yes. So I was like, Angela, tell them.
Yes, I know. It's really, I'm thrilled. And Eileen's book is actually, I'm thinking we can say it's almost sold out. So I'm actually
awesome.
Need to talk with her about funding for the next book and all that. But I think with the Simon and Schuster, we can have a real conversation of what that account base could look like. So that's really, and my goal for Eileen, if the whole readership knows, is everyone knows we really want her to do a second book, and what that is, we'll talk about. But I do think you're right, prime for that 7 to 9 year old. That age is my next goal for you.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Yes, we'll talk more.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions? That was fun. That's the first time I've said that on a podcast. I'm so excited.
Woohoo!
We're thrilled. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Angela, would you like to share any social media or website information before we go?
Sure. So follow us at the Collective Book Studio on Instagram. Very easy. Our website is thecollectivebook.studio. And then I'm also really, the best place to reach me is also LinkedIn. And I'm sure
Oh,
we can put that
great.
in the show notes, but
Yeah.
LinkedIn,
Okay.
I'm DM me there.
Okay, great. Awesome. Angela, thank you for your time. This was wonderful, and it was exciting to talk to book people. I'm thrilled. It was
I know
great.
I love being a book people nerd person, like bookish,
Right.
bookish,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. I
Bookish.
love
Yeah.
it. We're
Love it.
bookish.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, on behalf of Eileen Grimes and myself, everyone, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next episode. Bye.